You don't miss them. You miss the version of yourself you were when things felt certain. The nights you slept without checking your phone. The mornings you didn't replay conversations in your head. Somewhere between their mixed signals and your silent hope, you stopped feeling grounded. And the scary part isn't that they pulled away. It's that you stayed emotionally available to something that was slowly pulling you off center. What if the real problem was never them leaving, but you losing control of your inner world while waiting for them to decide? At first, it feels subtle. A little excitement when their name lights up your screen. A little tension when it doesn't. You tell yourself it's normal, that this is just how attraction works. But over time, your body starts learning a pattern before your mind does. High attention creates anticipation. Distance creates anxiety. Then one message resets everything, just enough to keep you hoping. That push and pull doesn't deepen connection. It trains your nervous system to stay on edge. You're not reacting to love anymore. You're reacting to uncertainty. And that's why even confident, self-aware people get stuck here. Not because they're weak, but because inconsistency creates a loop that feels meaningful while quietly draining your emotional stability. Without realizing it, you begin adjusting. Not in obvious ways, but in small, almost invisible ones. You soften your opinions. You delay saying what bothers you. You become more agreeable, more patient, more understanding than you actually feel. You start choosing the version of yourself that keeps the connection alive instead of the one that feels honest. And each compromise seems harmless on its own. But together, they create a quiet split. There's who you are when you're alone, and who you become when you're hoping they'll stay. That gap is where confidence leaks out. You're not being fake on purpose. You're just slowly learning that being fully yourself feels risky when consistency isn't guaranteed. When uncertainty starts hurting, the instinct is to fix it with understanding. You replay messages. You look for the perfect way to explain how you feel. You believe that if you can just communicate clearly enough, the confusion will disappear. But clarity doesn't come from convincing someone to show up. It comes from observing whether they already are. Every time you chase reassurance, you send a quiet signal that your peace is negotiable, that you're willing to do extra emotional work to stabilize something that isn't stable by nature. And the harder you try to define the relationship, the more you ignore the only thing that actually matters: consistent behavior. What keeps the cycle alive isn't the lack of answers. It's the hope that words will replace patterns. This is where most people get it wrong. They think the solution is to shut down, to become cold, distant, or indifferent. But emotional detachment isn't about pretending you don't care. Emotional control is different. It's the moment you realize you can feel something without letting it dictate your next move. You stop reacting immediately. You stop letting every shift in their behavior decide your mood for the day. Instead of chasing relief, you pause. You observe. You let discomfort exist without trying to escape it. And in that pause, something powerful happens. You start choosing responses instead of being pulled by impulses. That's not avoidance. That's maturity. The shift doesn't announce itself. There's no dramatic goodbye, no long message. No need to explain. It happens quietly, the moment you stop needing a response to feel okay. Their silence no longer feels personal, it feels informative. You notice how much mental space opens up when you're no longer waiting. How your thoughts return to your own life instead of circling theirs. This is where the balance changes. Not because you withdrew to punish them, but because you reclaimed your attention. You're no longer trying to be chosen. You're paying attention to what's being offered. And from that place, the dynamic loses its grip. Instead of analyzing moments, you start watching sequences. One good day no longer outweighs 3 weeks of distance. One intense conversation doesn't erase repeated cancellations or half-effort. You ask yourself simple, grounded questions. Do their actions match their words over time? Do you feel calmer or more unsettled after interacting with them? Are you moving forward in your life or waiting for them to decide? This isn't about judgment or labeling anyone as good or bad. It's about alignment. Patterns don't lie, and they don't need interpretation. They show you exactly what you're dealing with if you're willing to look without hoping they'll change. Boundaries aren't speeches you rehearse or rules you threaten people with. They're quiet decisions about what you allow access to. You don't need to explain your standards in paragraphs. You live them. When something feels consistently off, you adjust your availability. You stop overgiving. You stop making room for behavior that leaves you unsettled. And here's the part most people miss. How someone responds to a boundary tells you everything. Respect looks like adjustment. Disrespect looks like defensiveness, guilt, or disappearing. You don't argue with that information. You accept it. Because boundaries aren't meant to change people. They're meant to protect your peace and reveal who actually belongs in your life. The antidote to emotional chaos isn't controlling others, it's building yourself. You turn your focus inward. Your routines, your goals, your health, your skills. You create momentum, so strong that outside noise barely registers. Every small win, finishing a task, keeping a promise to yourself, showing up even when you don't feel like it, reclaims a piece of your authority. The more structure and purpose you have, the less someone else's unpredictability affects your calm. You stop measuring worth through attention and start measuring it through progress. And in that space, you naturally attract people who align with your energy, instead of reacting to the ones who don't. The real victory isn't getting someone to commit, respond, or notice you. It's reclaiming yourself. It's the quiet confidence of knowing your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's consistency. It's the peace that comes from choosing progress over panic, purpose over distraction, and discipline over emotional chaos. People will come and go, but the life you build and the self you honor stay with you. When you focus on your growth, your boundaries, and your standards, you stop reacting and start deciding. And that decision, every day in small ways, is the true power that transforms not just your relationships, but your entire life.